Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our webinar this morning, where we're going to have a bit of a deep dive into One Spatial's new data quality solution for the police, but also the wider emergency services. We've started looking at this with certain police forces, but I know a few of you joining are from fire services and also ambulances. So it's great to have you on board because we're hoping to expand this out into emergency services. So thank you everyone for joining. Just a quick overview of the session. We're going to be running for about half an hour today, so it's not too long. Hopefully you've got a cup of tea and all settled in and ready to go. We're going to start with a bit of a background and an overview of the data quality hubs for emergency services. We're then going to have a deep dive looking into a demo and look around the solution, and we're going to have a look at processing of some data through one of our addressing solutions with looking at UPRNs. We're then going to have a look at the rules engine that sits behind the apps for the data quality, and also a roadmap for future app development, because although we've started with looking at address data, we're looking to expand out into other use cases as well. And then finally, we're going to finish with some Q&A. If you want to ask a question, please feel free to write it in the chat box or in the questions box. And my colleague Fiona is keeping an eye on things, and we'll make sure we get them included at the end. Just so you know, everyone has been automatically muted. So if you want to interject, again, please put something in the chat box, and Fiona will manage that. Just to introduce those of us who are on the call, my name is Phil. I'm a senior business development consultant here at One Spatial and taking the lead on emergency services in the UK. We've also got Ricardo on the call, on the webinar as well, who's our product manager for the data quality hubs for emergency services. And then we've also, as I said, got my colleague Fee, who's helping manage the webinar from marketing. So in case some of you don't know anything about One Spatial, we're a data quality company that's been working in the geospatial sector for about 50 years now. We're based all over the world with our head offices in Cambridge, and we primarily focus on government utilities and transport. And in the government team, over the past decades, we've been working in central government with clients such as Rural Payments Agency and the Environment Agency, also national mapping agencies such as Ordnance Survey and OSI, and then also in defence. And in the past year, we've started to move into the emergency services in the UK with POCs and market research to see how our data quality solutions that have been running over the years in defence and central government can help the emergency services with any data quality problems they may have. So over the past year, as I said, we've been doing some market research, and we've identified that the data quality in the emergency services all hinges off this pole data model. And so if we were in the police, for example, this works a bit like if you're playing a game of Cluedo. You need to know who the person was, which is Colonel Mustard, where they were, which is the kitchen, what was the object, which is the candlestick, and what was the event, and it was a murder. For example, also you may be a fire service that's responding to an incident. You need to know, have you got any vulnerable people, the location, what objects are there? Is it a gas explosion, for example? What's the location? Is it a high-rise building? Do we need to have specialist equipment? And obviously the event would be a fire. And this pole data model works either for reacting to incidents or being proactive, where you're planning ahead, trying to prevent things taking place, or even looking at investigating an incident. And key to all of this, we've realized, is location, which is where One Spatial's and the data quality hub comes in as a speciality, is focusing on the location and the spatial aspect of data, because everything happens somewhere. So there's always going to be an element of location in your data or in your incidents if you're looking at the pole data model. So location is a really important part of your data, which is why we're highlighting it as a priority for data quality if you're setting off on a data quality program in your organization. Over the past year, when we've been doing our market research and our proof of concepts, we've been talking to people in the emergency services, and a lot of people have been saying, yes, we've recognized that we need to have a priority on data quality and we need to focus on this. But often there are problems with or restrictions on how you can get that going. And I've summarized them here into 3 categories. The first one is budget. We're coming out of a pandemic and the economic impact has been hard, so budgets are restricted. So it's often difficult for organizations to find the budget for large-scale data quality programs just because we're trying to keep business as usual going. There's also then the logistics. Data quality projects are complicated. When you get going, once you answer a question, often there's more questions that come out of every answer. So it's when you're planning and implementing these projects, if you try and do everything at once, it's a hugely complex task. And then also because of that, it's time. Everyone's busy. You're trying to keep your businesses and your organizations going. So taking on extra large, complicated projects is often difficult to manage your time load. So we realized these were often the potential barriers to emergency services or organizations being able to run data quality and have good data quality in their organizations. So having done the POCs and the market research, we came up with this solution, which is the Data Quality Hub for Emergency Services, and that's the one that we're having a look at on this webinar today. And the idea being is this solution helps the emergency services organizations achieve the aspiration of having good data quality whilst overcoming those common barriers and common problems. So the Data Quality Hub is based on, the licensing is based on an app or per use case basis. So for example, if you're an organization, you have problems with your addressing data and you wanted to just get the UPRN sorted, you only need to buy the app that focuses on UPRN and addressing data. There are other examples which we'll come on to later with different use cases. So you're only paying for the apps that you need to pay for, which helps overcome that budget problem. You're also then becoming, by taking a use case approach, you're also helping get over the logistics and the time problem, because you're just taking your data quality projects one step at a time. You're getting that bit of the data sorted, fixed, okay, great, move on to the next one, rather than trying to do everything in one go. It's project or use case by use case. If you wanted to do everything all at once, by all means you can, if you just get all of the apps. But the other thing as well, we're really keen with this, is we want it to be built with users for users. So rather than being a piece of technology that is forced and shoehorned in, we want this to be flexible and adaptable to each organization's process. And to help with that, we're designing it with our users. And we've got a community that we're building up, and we meet regularly, or want to meet regularly as in the future as well, to feed back and feed into what the roadmap should be and what the new app should be, which ends up meaning we have a constantly evolving library of new applications, and a project in one service or force may then be something that's useful to you that you haven't thought of. Another thing that helps with this constantly evolving library of new applications is the dashboarding capabilities that are built in, and we'll have a look at those later on that help you understand where the problems are with your data quality in your organization. And finally, we know in the emergency services you need to be auditing exactly what you're doing with if you're changing any data in your system. So anything that happens with the automated data quality is fully audited, and we'll have a look at that in more detail as well. If you want to have a look at our catalog of any apps that are currently available, we have got our online app catalog, which is on this URL down below. So the technology that sits behind these apps, I'm going to have a quick focus on the technology and how that was used in a POC at Avon and Somerset, and the story of how we got to where we are. So the technology that sits behind the apps is One Spatial's rules engine called One Integrate. And this rules engine is designed to have flexible deployment options, so it can be deployed on-premise, on your cloud, on our cloud, and be available SaaS. And by taking the rules approach, it's designed to be scalable, so we can be processing large volumes of data very easily. So it's completely flexible technology that sits behind it, and it's no code as well. So one of the things about taking the rules-based approach is you're able to make these, if you want to make any minor edits to your rules, you can go on there, and it's all drop-down menus, and it's no code configuration, which means if you want to change the app, maybe you want to change the auditing results of it slightly, for example, you can go on and do that easily yourself without having to raise large and expensive change requests, again, helping with that budget barrier. We're taking business-focused solutions, again, helping you manage your data quality projects. And it's also data and environment agnostic as well. So if you want to be integrating this into your any existing systems, we can adapt to over 500 different data types. So it's data, environment agnostic, and it can also be integrated into existing systems by using the API connectors. Just a quick focus on the flexible deployment options. So when we've been working with services over the past year, we've realized there have been a variety of different ways that automation of data quality should be applied based on the different processes. So the first example, which is what the demo is going to be looking at, is a loose data coupling. So these are for forces or services who don't want to be applying automation directly to the live data. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the tool, but it's just or a risk with doing that. You can do it, but it's just the processes of the organization as part of their QMS. So here what we do is we extract the data out, we then upload it to the app, we map the schemas, check it's all okay, ready to go, and then we process it through the rules engine that's behind the app. You download the data and then you put it back into your live system. So that's the loose data coupling. Some other organizations then prefer to take a medium, which is the close data based on the close data coupling, where they still go through those manual steps of activating when they want the rules engine to start and stop and on which bit of data, but they connect it straight into the data. So you've got that direct data connection, which is you can see there on the bottom. And then the final option, which some other organizations prefer as well, is going completely automated and behind the scenes. So you connect directly to the data, and it's just constantly churning away. Anytime there's any new bits of data, it will run the validation check on it, and it will just keep running around in the background. So that's a really close data connection. And those are the three main deployment options that we've seen come up in the past year of ways that people want to manage their data quality. During the POC we ran with Avon and Somerset in the past year, we took a loose data coupling approach. We ran the data through 3 use cases, which are the 3 use cases that we're starting off with on the hub. And we took about 90,000 records, and the focus here was on address management of the address data management. So we took 90,000 records from the records management system, and we processed it through 3 of the apps. The first one was the address and coordinates, where we were making sure that the records were in the correct location. And you can see the number of valid records, the improvement there. The UPRN ones were here. We were making sure that every single record has a UPRN. You can see the jump there. And then the beat boundary update, we already had cleansed data before we started, but we'd still managed to get a boost from 84 up to 89. And that one was checking whenever the beat boundaries are being updated, make sure that all the databases underneath are automatically updated. And I mentioned earlier that the rules approach means that this is a scalable solution for large data sets. In the POC, we ran a sample set of just over 90,000 records, and it took about 10 minutes to run on that. And since then, we've been working with Avon and Somerset, refining the requirements and refining the rules to get even better processing time than that now. So I'm going to now swap my screen to have a look at the Data Quality Hub here. So we're on the login screen here. There's various different ways of logging in, but the example we're using here is just your classic username and password. And when I come onto the main screen here, you can see that I've got the 3 apps that are available on my home screen. So the idea of this, we're going to be looking at this from the loose coupling approach. So I would be, for example, a member of the data quality team or a member of the data team who've got some data that I want to automatically cleanse through rather than doing it manually. When you click onto your projects, if you want to be configuring them, you can see here that we've got a description of exactly what is going on, but also if you're in the management position and you want to be deciding which members of your team can have access to this app, we've also got user management here, so we can select the team, and then even within that team we can narrow it down to saying, okay, I only want Phil and Ricardo, for example, to have access to this. And this means as a manager you're in complete control over exactly who's doing what to your data within your system. So this reduces the risk of someone coming in and just say, oh, I'm going to cleanse some data, and then you don't quite know what's going on. If, for example, you had a new member of the team that came on, it's really quick and simple to set it up. So clicked on suppliers here. I'm going to add a new member here, a new user. So I'll come onto the user's name, and we're going to add Fiona, who's helping us with the webinar today. So all you do is then just add in Fiona Newson at onespatial.com, which is her email address. You can either get it so that she has to click on a verification code and come through, but we're going to trust her and we're just going to add her automatically. So here I can update her account, check what permissions she's got all the way through here, and I can also assign her to a team. So if I take Fiona Newson, for example, and add her on here. Now as a manager, Fiona knows how the coordinate correction process is working in the organization. So she's going to be given permission here to have access to that app. So you can see here, you don't need to be a technical person. It's all a really easy to use interface for managing who's doing what on your data quality. Okay. And now each of these apps is powered by the rules engine. And I mentioned earlier on that on the rules engine, you can click through and make small edits. So I just want to quickly show you an example here of one of the rules that we've got. So I won't talk through the entire thing, but what we're doing here is first of all, we're checking that niche. So this is for a niche records management system in a police context. We're checking that it hasn't been processed. And then we're going to do an if-then statement. So what we're doing is we're taking the record in niche and we're checking it against the gazetteer. So we're checking that first of all there is one other gazetteer, and that the building name or the building number, the thoroughfare and the street and the district and the city and the town and the postcode and the UPRN, it matches between niche and the gazetteer. So we've got here a series of and statements, and it's no code, but it's quite simple logic. So the idea here is we don't have any technology debt. Although a bit like Excel, you need to think about how it's structured. Anyone really can look through and then look here at the if-then statement and see exactly what is going on. And if you wanted to make a small change, so for example, if your scheme has changed slightly and you want to change where the confidence scores come in, so the confidence scores are how well we've been able to match between the niche record and the gazetteer record. If you wanted to make that change, you just open up the rule here, and then you select the class, which is niche, and then you select confidence from the drop down here. So that also minimizes the risk of any spelling mistakes causing any problems down the line. And one thing I want to point out is you'll see here that the rule is written out as a positive rule. So we're saying that this is exactly how we want it to be, no exceptions. Whereas if you were taking a coding approach and you wanted to flag where something isn't compliant, you would have to say flag if this doesn't match, or flag if the record is in the wrong location. You have to think of every single exception. Whereas what we've done here is we've written it out positively, and we have said that, for example, the niche house name has to equal the gazetteer building name. So if it doesn't, then it's no good. It doesn't get through. If we go straight back to the hub here, what I want to do now is I want to show you an example of something going through the UPRN app. So we've just clicked on the app here, and we're going to start a new submission. So this is the loose data coupling, don't forget. So we've got our niche before record here, and we're going to drag and drop it in, and we're going to get started on the process. So the first process we're going to do is, because we're doing address data quality, we need to make sure that the schemas between the niche record and the gazetteer match, so we know what to expect coming through. So we've got our uploaded data here, and we're going to just map it to what we expect a niche record, which is the police record management system, what we expect it to look like. If you use a different records management system or a different gazetteer, then that's no problem at all. You saw how easy it is on the rule. the rules, what we do is we do a quick change and then it will just run through the entire thing. So we can just make sure that's mapped out nice and easily before you start. So what we've done now is we've kicked off and we're now going to run that data through the rules engine. So in this one, we're going to go through, we're going to load the data up into the cache. We're then going to apply the action. We're going to do a bit of pre-processing. So for example, in the records management data, it's not in capital letters, but in the gazetteer it is. So we're going to make sure that both are in capital letters to make sure that we're getting the best matches that we possibly can. Now on this one, for this demo, you can see here we're processing just under 80,000 records. So as I said before, we've been spending time with Avon and Somerset Police, who we did the POC with, refining the rules and making sure we can get it even better post POC. So this will take a few minutes to run through, but it's even quicker than the 10 minutes. And what we're going to do is we're going to run that through the rules engine here, which is then going to be matching the data and giving it 6 different confidence levels. So level 6 is where we've said that data is, that record in the address data is fine. It doesn't need any changing done to it whatsoever. Just mark it as checked and move straight on. We then move down to level 5, which has sub-premises numbers included as well. And what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, on level 5, the UPRN, which is what we want to make sure is definitely correct to help link all the data, level 5 is correct. The address is correct, but the UPRN isn't. So we've had a really strong match here, but we just need to make sure that the record is updated. Level 4 is where we've had a fuzzy match. So that is where we've gone, okay, well, the records are pretty much the same. So for example, the address in one data set is 9 Bell Lane, and Bell is spelled B-E-L-L-E, but in the other one it's been spelled B-E-L-L. So we're saying, yeah, that's probably just a minor typing typo. That's going to be okay. Move on. And then level 3 and level 2 are partial matches. So for example, we might say we've had building number and postcode. So that one's pretty good. We're going to make a suggestion, but it's got a lower confidence level than, for example, a level 5. And then level 1 is where we were unable to match, because at some point we need to cut off and say, now this is too risky. We're going to just make a mistake here. One of the data quality team needs to have a look at this. But if we're reducing the number of records that need to be manually checked, the pressure on that data quality team is much reduced, and then they can be focusing on more complicated tasks rather than just going through doing manual processes that can be automated. Then one of the things I wanted to just mention as well is that it's not just the address data. Some of the other use cases that we've been looking at is street data, for example, or you might be doing this to start managing getting from different data silos into one central data set. So it's not just the address records that we have been looking at. So we've gone through here, we've done our data processing, we've done level 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're just nearly at 1 now. There we go, we've got to the end, and we're going to copy this now back out, because we're doing the loose coupling. We're making a copy of the data for the data quality team to have a look at before they submit back through to the central database. So we've clicked continue, and then I'll show you the output that we've got here. So as a data quality team member, I've now got my output CSV file, and we can manage over 500 different file formats. But in this instance, we've used Niche, and I tried to do Blue Peter, and I had one I've made earlier. So if I look here, this is the CSV that we submitted before. You can see there's lots of gaps in the UPRN here. And if I look at one example of row 109, you see here at 38 Langford Road, there was no correct UPRN. But if we take the data that has come out, you can see here that the UPRN field, which is in J, has filled out really well. So we've got the UPRNs all there, good to go. And row 109, 38 Langford Road, has now got the UPRN, and we had a really strong match there. So that's been given a confidence level score of 5. So using this auditing here on the right-hand side, these confidence levels, we can quickly filter out as a team who needs to be looking at what. So for example, if you said in your processes, okay, anything with a 6 or 5 can go straight back in, we're not going to bother checking those, but anything with a 3, we're going to have a quick look at that before we submit it back in, because we think it's going to be okay, but we just want to double check it. So you can see here, I've got a level 3 with all the UPRNs here, but this is just a few records here that someone might want to quickly check before it goes back in. Another way you can also have a look at it is you can look at how many came out of the app as well. So you can see we've still got quite a few there with a level 1 that were unable to match, but we've also got a huge chunk that can go straight back in, again helping reduce that workload for the data quality team. So that's the output file that we had there. And then as I mentioned, that all you can see there on the file, everything's been audited here, but also we have a report that comes out of what data was submitted through which app as well, just for complete transparency of how the data is being processed. So you've got that complete system. Then finally, I also mentioned the dashboard as well. So this is completely configurable as a business intelligence dashboard, where you can start to look at particular different date times, or you can be looking at different apps, and then also different team members as well, to see who's submitting data at what time and where the data quality errors are. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I just wanted to quickly finish off to leave time for questions in case we do have any. Just a quickly overview of the apps that we've got available on the store and on the hub, and the ones that are coming ahead on the roadmap. You just had a look at the UPRN, the address management one. The other address management one we've got on there at the moment is the address and coordinate correction. So in a similar way, we're taking 6 confidence scores, and then the check that we're doing to make sure that a record is valid is we're saying take the building polygon, so the square of the building, and check that the record that's within it matches the same address as the building it is within. And if it doesn't, then move it to be within the correct building. So we're doing a spatial check there. We're not just saying do all the addresses match, we're actually doing a spatial check, because you can actually have addresses that match, but if the geometry and the spatial component of the data is wrong, when you start to load it onto your business intelligence dashboards or your mapping GIS systems, you're going to start to get false positives, or even of where crime or incidents are taking place, or if you're responding to an emergency, when responders put it into their systems, it could be taking them to the wrong location. So the address and coordinate correction focuses on the geometry aspect of the data as well. And then the beat boundary one I mentioned earlier as well. If you've got constantly changing beat boundaries or operational boundaries, and you need to be updating all of your data below, that automatically runs through the data. And we've got a roadmap of different apps that we want to add on there. So we're talking to prospects, we're talking to clients, we're talking to non-clients, trying to build up these different use cases here. One of them is looking at nominal data. So if we've got multiple people all linked to the same location, can we start to do that fuzzy matching to make sure that we can identify where there may be the same person? So for example, if you had a Dan, Danny, Daniel, all located at the same location, could that be the same person? Also, we're also looking at street junctions and USRNs. So for example, if you have long dual carriageways and street records just at the start of that dual carriageway of the long line, how can you start to accurately locate where the incidents have taken place? Or if you've got really complicated road junctions on motorways, how can we start to make sure we identify where the traffic accidents are most commonly happening? We're also working with doing some workshops with Ordnance Survey, looking at the Emergency Services Gazetteer and how we can help forces and services get the most out of that data by helping synchronize it in with their existing systems. We're also looking at things like what 3 words. How can we start to help with what 3 words in your address management or your location instance if you're responding to an incident? Deduplication of records, and then also helping managing data silos. So if you're embarking on a data quality project and you've had data in lots of different locations and you need to start merging it through to a central managed database, how can we help apply those rules and those processes to help you move your data in as part of that project. And then you can start to do other cleansing processes as well once you've got all of that data out of its silos into one location. So we're building up this roadmap, and one of the things that we would love to do is we'd love to hear from any of you who are here on the webinar, any feedback of ideas you think that we should be considering for the roadmap, or so that we can help keep that as informed as possible, as I said. So this roadmap of apps on the hub is designed by users or with the users, rather than just being technology that's shoehorned in. We want it to be informed with you. So we're coming up, we're at the half-hour mark. That is the technical overview. I appreciate it might be a bit high level. If you want to have more detail, if you want to have a more interactive session, my contact details are on the screen there. I'd be more than happy to arrange a one-to-one session with any of you, whether you are an existing service who are thinking about data quality, or if you're here and you already supply software or systems, command and control systems, or any dashboarding systems into the emergency services, and you want to have some sort of data quality process as part of your offering to your clients, we're more than happy to have a discussion with you to help see if we can help become part of that offering. Fiona, do we have any questions that have come in?
I feel, yeah, we've had a few questions come in. I think the first one is a question for Ricardo, actually. So Ricardo, in case we wanted to integrate this app into an automated workflow of our own, would it be possible to call the apps through an API instead of through the user interface?
Okay, yes, indeed. The functionality that you can do is through the user interface in terms of uploading data and running the apps is available also through the API. So you can connect with a key that is assigned to the user. You can connect through an API, upload data, launch the apps, and then retrieve the results. So yes.
Great, thank you. And then I've got quite a few other questions for you, Phil, I think.
Okay.
First one being, there can be variations of requirements between police forces, and have you had any other challenges in this regard?
Yeah, that's a good point. So it has been interesting, given how different each of the forces are. One of the main things that came out of that is the flexibility of the tool. So, you know, I mentioned earlier on the fact that we've looked at making sure this can be available on-premise as SaaS, or for deployment on a Forces cloud, because each service we've spoken to has a different requirement. We've also the other one as well, with that loose coupling or that close coupling. Again, almost every service we've spoken to is on a different level of that spectrum of how automated and how closely connected they want this to be. So we've been just evolving the offering over the past year as those differences have come in. So whilst it's been a good challenge to work through, I think we've overcome them. I hope that came across as well. But if anyone's thought of something else that we need to consider, please do get in touch and let us know.
Okay, perfect. And someone else has asked what procurement options are available for this tool.
Yeah, good question. So the solution is available via the digital transformation framework, which, if you're a police force, is available on the Knowledge Hub. And I've got, I think we might have colleagues from Fortress who manage that framework as well. So if you're a fire or ambulance service as well, that framework is available for you to use. So it's been pre-procured. They've done all the checks that they need to do. So it's available on there. If you're interested in using that, either look on the Knowledge Hub if you're a police force, or if you're in fire or ambulance, get in touch with myself. and I'll put you in touch with Fortress to help you go through that process.
Perfect. And there's just one more question. How would someone give feedback on a proposed roadmap of apps?
How would someone give feedback?
Yeah, they asked, how do we give feedback on the proposed roadmap?
The best thing to do is to get in touch with me again, and I'll set up a session with Ricardo. Again, we'd love to hear the feedback, because unless we get the feedback, we are not guessing, but we're having to work. We work it out based on what we hear. So please do get in touch. Don't worry, you won't be backed into the corner with a sales call. There's quite a few forces at the moment that we're talking to just to get that feedback and be informed of what the roadmap should be. So please do get in touch, and because Ricardo and I would love to hear your feedback.
Great, thank you. That's all the questions we've had today. Obviously, feel free to send Phil an email or the info@OneSpatial email address as well if you've got any questions, and I'm sure Phil or Ricardo will be happy to answer your questions.
Great. Thank you, and yeah, thank you very much everyone for your time and for coming along, and hopefully we get to hear from you soon. Thank you so much for your time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.